greatest challenge in the modern cinema is to create a blockbuster movie that will appeal to audiences of all ages in all countries. They did it in Superman 1. Incredibly, they did it again in Superman 2. With this impossible double act to follow, could they make it 3 in a row in Superman 3? In the next hour, we'll take you behind the scenes and show you how they took on that challenge. A hot summer's day in Washington, D.C. The occasion is a brunch, a charity brunch to support the Special Olympics for the handicapped. And for the third time, the world premiere of the latest Superman film has been devoted to this cause. The hosts are the president of the charity, Eunice Shriver, sister of the late President Kennedy, and her husband, Sergeant Shriver. As ever, the team that made Superman 3 was headed by the movie mogul, Alexander Salkin.
I'm so glad to see you, Mr. Salkin, again. Here's the real Alexander Salkin. The father. He's the original Superman.
But the character of Superman belongs to the actor Christopher Reeve. His son Matthew wasn't even born when his father first put on that famous red cape. This time, Superman has a battle of wits with computer genius Gus Gorman, played by one of America's favorite comedy actors, Richard Pryor.
There's a good story back in the paper this morning. I thought so. In the New York Times, it came off very nice.
Robert Vaughn is in Washington, not behind closed doors, but out in the open to celebrate his villainous role as Ross Webster, and his luscious assistant is the Australian actress Pamela Stephenson. 2 new faces to challenge Superman, but behind the camera, the old team is still intact with Richard Lester as director.
Good morning.
Pierre Spangler as producer, and as executive producer, Ilya Salkin, the man who had the idea of making this series of Superman movies.
Done it again.
Jackie Cooper is there with his wife. Once again, he plays the Daily Planet editor, Perry White.
I can't believe I'm finally standing here just talking to you like this. I've been watching your movies since when? I think I saw you the first one.
After the brunch, the world premiere of Superman 3, and then on to the White House for a presidential reception. The setting is Battersea Power Station on the banks of London's River Thames. The disused coal tip inside is hardly the world's most glamorous location for a multi-million-dollar movie, but it provides a landing site with a difference for the flying hero. After spending half his working life in the part, Christopher Reeve has worked out the elements that give Superman his mass appeal.
I am not yet ready to put the whole 5 years in perspective, other than to say that this has been an extraordinary time for me. It's changed my life. And I think it's made a lot of people throughout the world very happy. Very rarely do you get a film where you can take, as I say, kids from 8 to 80. And this one you can. You know, there's a little something for everyone. And there's been a great deal for me as well. I think the initial accomplishment was to prove to people that this was not just a kiddie flick, that you could have serious adult themes in a lighthearted way that would capture romance and fantasy as well as sort of macho heroics. In fact, probably the element of Superman that people responded to more than any other was the idea of Superman as a gentleman.
Right.
Director Richard Lester doesn't mind getting his feet dirty in the grimy backdrop he has chosen for his leading actors.
Yeah, that works. Okay.
They're still experimenting with various methods of takeoffs and landings to make the flying look as authentic as an eagle.
One arm? Yeah, I think it might be.
Okay, good, nice pick up.
But in the quest for perfection, Lester agrees with his star Reeve that any action that isn't 100% right isn't right.
That's useless. It's good for landing, but not for takeoff.
It's that we'll have to overlap and I'll have to do another takeoff.
They're thinking it's going to be wires.
Many techniques are used to make the flying smoother than ever, but the biggest bonus is the athletic grace of Christopher Reeve himself.
180.
There's no shortage of stars down in Battersea today. Richard Pryor, a computer genius who finds himself in a love-hate relationship with Superman, arrives to tackle the first major scene in the shooting schedule where the two men work together. Pryor almost literally talked himself into the part.
Richard Pryor's involvement in the film came from a guest appearance on The Tonight Show, in which Johnny Carson was trying to say, "So what have you been up to lately?" He said, "Oh, I saw Superman. Wow, this guy is incredible. He does, oh man." And he was acting out Superman 1 for 19 million people, coast to coast, right there. Saved them all $5 each.
You little Steve Stealer, what'd you say?
And director Richard Lester is only too aware of Pryor's individual style of performance.
But I think he's developed a technique, and after all, he's made 30 films, of keeping fresh. He never says the same line the same way twice. He never walks in the same way and moves in the same way. He's the continuity girl's nightmare. But he keeps himself fresh by always doing something slightly different. But he has an amazing technique as a film actor.
However strong the casting of a superstar, a film depends on the leading actors finding the right chemistry between them. In Superman 3, director Richard Lester did his best to ensure Christopher Reeve and Richard Pryor played off each other in a cheerfully balanced fashion. In the event, they actually had fun working together.
319, take one.
Background action! Action.
We're on the ground, Gus.
Oh, you
Morning.
okay, Soup?
I'm fine. Just a second, excuse me.
9 or 10 miles? I think I'll walk. I don't. Yeah. I'll walk. Yeah. No. No.
The improvisation seems to please the director. Some locations in Superman films are so extraordinary, you can't just find them. They have to be built from scratch. His arch enemies tend to use their vast wealth to live in extreme and eccentric luxury. Remember Lex Luthor's lair under Grand Central Station? Well, Ross Webster, the chief villain in this picture, is keen on skiing. But since he can't be bothered to travel to the slopes every weekend, he's had a ski slope built on the terrace of his Metropolis penthouse apartment. Now, in the Superman film, some effects are achieved by models, and others are cleverly created by opticals. But this ski slope is for real. It took 3 months to build this exotic setting in Pinewood Studios, and when it was complete, another problem had to be solved. How to cover it with snow that A, wouldn't melt, and B, you could ski on. The 100% solution, 17 tons of Epsom salts. It is from here that Ross masterminds his scheme to dominate the world by computers. The setting may be the most perfect money can buy, but even for the rich, the little things still irritate, like a broken chair.
No. Perfect. It was the perfect plan. It was foolproof.
Actor Robert Vaughn.
Well, Ross is one of the wealthiest men in the world and is not satisfied with being one of the wealthiest. He wants to be the wealthiest and control all of the coffee and oil that he does not already control. And the only person standing in his way is Superman. I'm going to have to get rid of him.
But how? Shoot him? You know about him and bullets, not to mention knives, tanks, bombs.
Kryptonite.
What?
Or krypton hammer. Kryptonheimer. Anyway, I forgot what you call it, but there's this stuff that can, like, hurt Superman.
How would you know about that?
Oh, I know a few things.
Yeah, so I understand from the...
Pamela Stevenson is Ross's secretary come masseuse, and Annie Ross plays his ruthless sister Vera. But they all depend for their power on the inventive mind of Gus Gorman. This time, Superman seems to have got the better of him.
Action. You think he stayed around to take bows? Not him. No, he flew up into the mountains where the mudslides were taking place, right? All the rain had washed the mud down into the valley. There was a big boulder rolling down the hill. It must have weighed 1,000,000 pounds. You know what he did? He just looked at it and said, "Hey, boulder."
Writers David and Leslie Newman.
We thought if we have this great, gifted man, it would be wonderful if we could find ways for him not to only play the one character, but to do other figures, and we found a way to do that. He does this kind of General Patton-like guy. He does this kind of cornball salesman.
And he does Superman.
And he does Superman.
He picked it up and he twirled it around on his finger like a basketball and slam dunked it into space. It just shot up like that. It was fantastic, man. And then you know what happened? I can't remember.
Doesn't matter.
The city of Calgary in the heart of Canada once again played host to a Superman film. They shot Superman 1 locations here. One of the major set pieces this time was a raging fire just outside town. A dangerous task for Oscar-winning special effects man Colin Chilvers.
We picked a petrochemical plant which is just about to come on stream, which cost about $400 million to build. And well, they've given us permission to go in there and make fires and explosions. So that will be interesting to see, to work with their firemen as well. They're so strict as to what we can do, quite rightly so. But that's a challenge to make a good effect, but keep within their safety limits.
Well, I think the idiocy of a film crew to go to a place where you're not allowed to bring a cigarette lighter because of the danger of flame and set the whole thing alight with explosions and butane cylinders, it just shows the foolishness in our business.
I think you better do it.
Neil? Put it onto liquid.
The story may be fictional, but when the script calls for an explosion, it's for real. So are some of the extras.
They were all real firemen. All the people that were playing the part of firemen were real firemen. And the danger was that during this, while we had our flames going full tilt, because although they are controlled flames, they do set alight the building around them, that the wind would have shifted because there are areas of poisonous gas which is flammable. And had the wind turned around suddenly, we could have been in serious danger. I mean, or physical danger to ourselves.
More that way!
Despite the air of controlled chaos, at the end of the day, it's only a movie. Human safety is more important than anything else. Where possible, the crew stay well away from the flames. But the risks of shooting the fire from a distance are multiplied when they have to put a camera on the roof. Fortunately, Superman is on hand. But how will he get the people trapped up there safely onto the ground? As ever, a combination of the mastermind and physical strength saved the day.
My God, they're trapped! What's he gonna do? Climb down one at a time?
But Jimmy Olsen, played by Mark McClure, is in there somewhere. Like a good photographer, he lives with his camera.
And he goes for some pictures and he climbs a ladder and it breaks, you know, and he falls down and he kind of breaks his leg. It's a sad story. Send those letters. And Superman saves him.
Okay, Jimmy. Bye-bye.
Jimmy is saved, but the fire is still raging totally out of control. How can even Superman put it out? Only the scriptwriters can solve that. They've written in a lake 5 miles away.
But it seemed like such a totally marvelous idea at the time to have a great big fire and a lake 5 miles away, and how on earth are you going to get the water there in time? And it's a dilemma that think as you can if you're having to think fast. There's just no answer. Even Superman's not going to be able to get all that water there. He doesn't have a straw 5 miles long. And so it was fun having to come up with the solution.
Where's this lake? That way!
Elmas told me we had an adequate water supply. How can I...
But how will he get the lake back to the fire? That's a problem for visual effects chief Roy Field.
Well, the actual freezing is done in sort of with his super breath, obviously, and and I shoot, you know, the breaths and things and put them into the scenes that the director shoots. The tougher shots were really the freezing of the actual lake, which I decided the only way to do it was to actually paint it. We painted a sort of effect of a frozen lake, which was over Chris's shoulder, if you remember. He was in the foreground on the right. And we literally sort of cleaned it off. Instead of creating it, we decreated it, if you like.
One of the most intricate challenges facing Field is to create this shot of the lake falling on the factory.
Take some candy glass, which is glass we make here. It's breakaway glass, you know, sugar glass, I suppose, a better word for it. And physically broke that up frame by frame into fragments. And you do that by just putting it on the ground and shooting above it and hammering it and shooting frame after frame after frame, and at the same time, of course, moving away from it. And then I went on to K stage and shot a whole lot of pieces of ice, and then I shot a whole lot of steam, and you know, you just put that all lot together. Not quite like that, but all into the melting pot. But no, you dissolve one piece in and another piece in and so on.
The limitless cornfields of Alberta provide a perfect setting for Clark Kent's romance with his old high school friend Lorna Lang, played by Annette O'Toole.
So how much
You know, I
longer
was just
do you think
thinking
it's
about
gonna
it.
be?
Oh, sorry.
No.
No, go ahead.
Could I make it in Metropolis? I mean, what would I do when I got there?
Call me.
No, I wouldn't want to call you.
You want to call me?
Yes, I want to call you, but I mean, I wouldn't want to be a nuisance to you.
I don't think you could ever be a nuisance to me.
Clark, may I tell you something? My oil pan is leaking.
Christopher Reeve has given Clark a new dimension this time.
See, there's something dripping.
Can I give you a hand?
No, thanks.
And I've added a new characterization to Clark Kent, which, in case you don't see what I'm doing in the film, I'll tell you what I did right now. I felt that after 2 films worth of bumping into doors, by now I should know where the doors are, and the elevators and the street crossings. It's a bore to watch somebody be a klutz all the time.
But Clark is the person I grew up with, and I can talk to him. And there's sort of a lost feeling about that here's this wonderful person. I was so into being popular and being with the football hero that I never saw what was right there. And there's that bittersweet quality about it, I think.
So I played a thing in the movie where Clark discovers that he is needlessly putting on the act of a fool and drops it.
But even the new-look Clark still has something remarkably perceptive about him. Lorna's son Ricky has had an accident.
Lana, I think I'll just go see if Ricky's all right. You okay?
Yeah.
Gosh, is he all right?
For Paul Keffler, who plays Ricky, this was the thrill of a lifetime.
That's me.
nobody but the people the company hires gets to fly with Superman. I mean, it's great. It's great. I mean, it's just perfect. I mean, you could say it'd make it everybody's holiday.
There you go. If I were you, I'd put a little iodine on that. Okay, mercurochrome.
Thank you. Oh, I'm Lana Lang.
Nice to meet you.
And this is Ricky. And this is Clark.
Well, then I'd really better be going.
But being a young movie star is not just a holiday. It needs concentration and dedication.
We were flying, Mom, in the sky.
What did you do anyway?
I was looking for...
Cut. Why can't you just say it like you normally say things?
Okay. What are you doing anyway? I was looking for Buster. Buster? Buster! 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 Mr. Kent, Superman was here.
What?
Yes, he really was.
Uh-huh.
Oh, aren't you excited?
Well, Lana, you know, I'm from Metropolis. I see Superman every day.
You do? Did you give me his autograph?
Come, that's better.
As Christopher Reeve ad-libs, I wish I had a nickel for every time I was asked that. Downtown Calgary is playing Metropolis, better known as the Big Apricot in this film. In the center of the city is a skyscraper that has on its top Webster's penthouse. No better example of the minute planning that goes into a Superman film can be given than the fact that two split-second elements of a scene can be shot 5,000 miles apart and made to look as if it all happened on the same day in the same place. Back in Pinewood, Richard Pryor put on his skis. In an elaborate stunt, he has to ski down the slope, out of the penthouse, along a roof, and into the street. Well, his stand-in Greg is doing the roof skiing. He's a good stuntman, but he's never skied before, especially down a skyscraper. Nothing broken. We'll get back to him to see how he finally manages it. Down at street level, a robbery is taking place in front of thousands of witnesses. It makes good street theater for the onlookers. What they don't realize is that the robbery isn't part of the main plot of Superman 3. It's just one of dozens of interrelated moments that have been plotted to provide a witty title sequence for the film. Few of the people actually working on the scenes know precisely how they will actually fit together. Only those who've seen the essential storyboards can keep track of the sequence of events. Oh, let's check how Greg's getting on. Back at the title sequence, a policeman lets off a bullet and it hits a car tire.
If you are using a lot of physical effects, it's better that, if you have someone that can draw them, that you draw what you want to achieve, or have it drawn, so that there's no surprise. It's terrible to go on to a day's filming and someone has dug a hole big enough to take a car, and you say, I really meant it over there.
This looks like a job for, but unfortunately Clark Kent is otherwise engaged. Besides, due to a recent disaster also in the title sequence, he doesn't appear to have anywhere to change.
Go!
Nothing seems able to stay up for long in Calgary today. And it looks as if the man in the car is destined to drown. But fortunately, there's one possible place for a quick change. Aaron Smolinski takes up the story.
Well, like, I'm going to be walking down the street, and he can't go into any of the phone booths, so he runs into one of those picture things that you have to press a button to take a picture of you. And he accidentally presses a button when he's getting changed, so he runs out with a Superman suit, and he bumps into me, and he just remembers his pictures are in there, so he runs back in, brings out the pictures, tears off the bottom, and gives it to me. Then he goes.
Cheers. Do you know that is a lifelong ambition to be rescued by Superman? Honest.
Aaron is more than just any little boy. He played the infant Clark Kent in Superman 1, but he wasn't as strong as he appeared.
A crane lifted it up. Crane lifted up by the front. I was just holding it. I was just holding it, standing on my tippy toes.
Meanwhile, on the glassy ski slopes, there are still problems. Down at street level, things are getting even crazier.
Right, okay.
Surely, even the storyboards can't join these bizarre happenings together.
395, take 2, aim big cameras. Action.
Got it? Here we go. And action. Go!
Even Clark Kent has to join in the slapstick and catch a flying custard pie. No easy act. When it comes to the real thing, he's a professional down to his fingertips.
400, take 2, A and B cameras.
Bullseye. Now, can Greg get it right as well? Well done. It was a difficult shot and he could have broken a leg. Was it worth it? Here's how it looks in the finished film.
I can't ski!
One of the final scenes that cameraman Bob Painter and his crew had to shoot on the streets of Calgary was the descent of Superman to the level of a street drunk. Veteran makeup artist Stuart Freeborn had a job with a difference. He had to make the man who stands for truth, justice, and the American way look evil. The rot set in when Richard Pryor made Superman a present of some nearly pure kryptonite. Not enough to kill him, but enough to turn him away from the paths of absolute goodness.
You, Superman, with this token of our appreciation, it's the government's way of saying you did a fine job.
I can't get through here, lady. There's something happening.
Superman's drunk.
Ricky! Ricky!
What are you looking at? Ah!
Even Lana and Ricky are too late to save him. The writers have done their worst.
Inevitably, the whole Jekyll and Hyde notion began to occur to us, and we thought, why not do that? Let's go for broke on it. And so we found a way via wonderful kryptonite, the Deus Ex Machina of all Superman legends, a special kind of kryptonite that goes a little bit wrong in this case because it's man-made and causes a strange thing to happen to Superman, which is that he becomes first a little forgetful and then a little malicious and then mean and tough, and it's Mr. Hyde. And by taking this icon of good and turning him into something not very pleasant, we allowed the good Clark to step forward as another character until
with his own decent virtues.
So that finally you wind up...
So that the battle becomes one between Superman, who, through no fault of his own, under the influence, as it were, has become distorted and contorted into an almost evil personality.
The showdown between Clark Kent and the now evil Superman was shot on the backlot of Pinewood Studios in England in a specially created auto graveyard. Literally hundreds of wrecked cars were needed to build this Detroit cemetery. But the main problem facing the film's designer was that they had to be American. The cost of shipping so many car wrecks from America would have been enormous. But with a stroke of luck, a local junk dealer in England who specialized in spare parts for American cars was forced to shift the site of his business, and this godsend provided the film crew with the battered material they needed. Thus, an amphitheater of steel was created to house a classic one-man show, the Man of Steel's fight with himself. The necessary extra machinery was devised by Colin Chilvers.
Well, we've had so many different effects with this big car crusher, which we had to rig to work and have Chris Reeves inside it so that we didn't crush him. We had to make sure that we had enough room left in there for Chris. It was designed around the car crusher, and then we had to slightly redesign it for our own purposes. And my department fixed all the hydraulics to make it work, and we tested it to make sure that it was safe for Chris. And we have to do things which a regular car crusher wouldn't have to do, which is like close very quickly, because of film time is no one wants to sit and watch a car crusher close for 15 seconds, so we had to get it down to 5 seconds.
For Christopher Reeve, it's possibly the most physical piece of acting he's had to do in the dual, now triple parts.
One, two, three.
I played it like the ultimate migraine headache. You know, there's this demon within him. And the demon within him is the good Clark Kent, who is like the albatross around his neck. You know, this guy who limits him, this guy, this fool that he has to act, this glasses, this thing. And Clark Kent, evil Superman, is the demon within him.
With 5 years' experience in the part, Reeve works in close collaboration with director Lester to get the action and the camera angles perfect.
That's the shooting that hurts. Have you tried one? Do we have a...
We think we're all right. And it's wonderful to have someone like Christopher who is there saying, I think that in these circumstances, Superman would or would not do that, or Clark Kent would or would not do that. He certainly now has a great grounding in Superman's feats and his stunts and what he can do and how to achieve them.
Or if we make it another action that is easier to fake, which is a mutton chop, like a
a rabbit punch. Yeah. You want to try that?
Yeah,
sure.
If you come down,
A rabbit punch, and I'll just take it in the teeth.
so come into there.
Yeah.
Are we absolutely married to the left leg? Are we absolutely tied into that idea?
Yeah, I think so. We've seen that in like 4 shots. I'd keep the left.
Because it'd be real easy tomorrow just to put on the bottom half of that costume and look the other way again.
I'd just as soon see this. Let me see what that looks like. Okay, just from there is enough, really.
Okay.
And action. Walk away, Paul. That looked quite good. Yeah, no, that looks good.
In this schizophrenic battle of wills, good eventually triumphs over evil. Superman 3 moves to its climax in a cavern at the foot of the Grand Canyon. There, Ross Webster and his 2 female collaborators have constructed a giant computer. They've chosen to balloon down to their prized possession. But although some of the shots were taken on the back lot at Pinewood, a second unit was dispatched to the shimmering heat of the Grand Canyon itself. The frame they were carrying is suspended from a helicopter, and this enables the 3 stunt doubles for the 3 stars to float from balloons perilously suspended over the canyon. Back on the vast 007 stage at Pinewood Studios, they molded exact replicas of the Arizona rock formations to make the cavern in the canyon. And there, in the midst of it, Ross Webster's giant computer, the biggest in the world. This is the moment when Superman confronts the villains for the first time.
I don't know you, lady. I'm sorry, but that wasn't me. That guy's gone. And you're next, Webster.
Initially, the trio gained the upper hand, wrapping Superman in an invisible skin.
Do you do children's parties?
This is the result of a children's party.
This is a children's party.
Director Richard Lester wouldn't ask his actors to do anything he wasn't prepared to experience himself.
I'm going to just give you a slight bit of a swing this way, Chris, before you get pushed back.
Peter.
Go. Look, Richard, look to him and smile as if...
Down, please.
Cut.
Down. Hit on it. Number.
With Superman at the mercy of the machine and its vicious masters, Richard Pryor has a last-minute change of heart and tries to destroy the monster he designed.
I think you've done it.
But despite his helpfulness, Pryor is attacked by the machine and gets his first taste of flying. Backwards.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
1, 2, 3.
No room for a stunt double here, and however big the star, it has to be done again and again until the director is satisfied.
One straight, please.
That's it. Thank you, David. That's the one. Thank you. Okay. 271, take 1 and B cameras. Lots of energy. Here we go. And action. Girls!
As the computer begins to take over, things go out of control for the terrible trio. But even in the carefully plotted chaos, there's still room for the occasional bit of fun.
All of a sudden, a guy jumped down with a kind of Batman suit on and said, "Don't worry, sweetheart, I'll save you." And it was our head stuntman, Paul Weston, which cracked everybody up, especially me.
Then go.
But the show must go on. Vera meets a fate worse than death.
Sis! Sis!
Sis?
Now she's a robot. Vera's hate for Lorelei becomes even more dangerous. She has the power to make people fly.
Right, that's far enough.
Appearing in special effects films these days is something they never prepared you for at drama school. It needs a strong physique and a head for heights.
Rostrum in, please. Straight up, Pam. Anyway. I didn't check Pam, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Even Webster finds himself the victim of his own devilish designs. The actors have to imagine the powerful rays that will be added to the film months later. This surreal battle is a combination of these optical effects and some fearsome mechanical effects on the studio floor.
Two bells. Camera reload.
Again, Christopher Reeve's mind is on how it will look in the completed footage.
Right, and I'm still pulling, and then those things cut out. Meanwhile, pull, and it's and getting pulled back like that.
Terrific. That looks very good.
Okay.
That's where you are, David. Action!
Does Superman survive? Does anyone survive? All will be revealed in the finished film. What doesn't survive is the computer itself. The whole million-dollar construction is wired with hundreds of strategically placed charges to prepare for its ultimate destruction. It's a shot that can't be retaken, so extra cameras are brought in to capture the final explosion. There's an air of military tension as the special effects team plot the explosion. No one is quite sure that it will come off as planned.
I couldn't believe it when Clark gave it to me.
For Christopher Reeve, Superman 3 represented his biggest challenge to date. His style and his actions are now familiar to the audience. They know that he can change from Clark to Superman, and they know that Superman can fly and perform the impossible. In this film, Reeve had to forfeit these elements of surprise and rely on his own skill as an actor, matched in comedy against the formidable talents of Richard Pryor, to hold our attention and sustain our belief for a third time. Those of us who observed him at work on Superman 3 think he did a pretty good job. During his 5 years on the 3 films, Christopher Reeve has had his own chronometer. His son Matthew was born and learnt to talk. At last, he's found out what Daddy does.
Well, at first he thought that I played a soup man who used to go from door to door like the milkman or the eggman, handing out spoonfuls of chicken noodle and minestrone soup. And he thought, that actually might be what I'm down to when I'm 60. Sort of, hello, I'm the soup man. But he now knows quite well that I'm Superman. If you ask him what Superman does, he says, well, he flies all by himself.